Hey all, welcome to the Military Wire with Mike Schindler, the podcast where we interview some of America's most elite men and women who have served this country. We share their stories, their proven lessons in leadership, and their journey to finding mission and purpose. Today's guest is Daniella Young. I am super excited about Daniella. She and I go back a little bit, but she is one of the first women to serve on a ground combat team in active war. Very impressive. You don't hear a lot from our female veterans who have served on active combat teams or in combat teams in active war. She's now a speaker, a writer. She's a culture whisperer, which I have no idea what that means, audience, but we'll unpack that. And now she's running her own show. Daniella, welcome to this show.
Thank you, Mike. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you. You know, your story is so compelling to me. I think, you know, when you and I first met and you started unpacking your story to me, you know, beyond the combat veteran piece, which I think is really important for our audience to understand and hear and learn from. I think you've got a lot to teach people on this point. But the thing that you said next is what and you probably remember this, was so compelling to me. You were like, I grew up in a seriously bad religious cult, which floored me. And then you go on to become a captain in the U.S. Army, and now you're doing CEO forums, and you've got an upcoming TEDx talk, which is very exciting. I don't want to get ahead of myself in this. I really want to unpack that thing that pulled me in. And we'll talk about your combat experience, but what pulled me in first was that religious cult experience. Tell your story. Growing up at a cult, what was that all about? What was that like?
Yeah, so definitely, it's hard to explain what it's like. So I was a third-generation cult member, which means that my mother was born and raised in the cult as well. The cult was called Children of God. It started in the U.S. in the 60s. It spread all over the world. And it started as a normal, counterculture movement during the era when the hippies were out there searching for something different. And this man started preaching to hippies on the beaches of California. And, these days when I'm coaching leaders, it's, they didn't set out to start a cult. They set out to build a strong organization with strong values that they all believed in. And then they just did all the steps, but in sort of complete isolation with a lot of extremism, and it ended up being something, fairly evil. And so, by the time I was growing up, it was, this sort of twisted religious culture that had been built around faith, love, and Jesus, and had turned into, religious prostitution, pedophilia, child marriages, and,
wow.
Really stuff that's so hard for people to imagine. And, so I grew up, I was born in a commune in Asia, and I spent my entire first 15 years of my life, in communes with hundreds of people in Asia, South America, and Mexico. I speak fluent Portuguese and Spanish.
Wow.
And I never even came to the U.S. until I was 14, even though, I was American. And we didn't go to school. We were homeschooled. We were, preparing to be soldiers of Jesus in the apocalypse, here to prepare all of you for the end of the world. And so extremely focused religious group, thought they were missionaries, thought they were doing wonderful things for God, and then just had this really sort of negative power controlling leader that created a very negative situation for especially the children and, the young women growing up. My mom suffered a lot. She started having children at 14. I'm actually one of 24 children.
Wow.
From multiple parents. And, yeah, so, very much, in many ways, everything that you would think when you think cult.
That's crazy to me. I mean, I've got a daughter that's 15, and I can imagine her having any child at 14, let alone 15. As growing up in this, did you think it was strange, or was it normal? Was that your normal? You probably didn't have any comparison, or did you?
So both, but you hit on it. Growing up, I didn't have anything else to compare it to. So I very specifically remember at 6 years old having a memory that, oh, this is not normal. Like, everybody doesn't live this way, which, of course, we were told, right? We were the special, we were the elite army of Jesus. Mm. But I do remember thinking, if I'm not here, I'm going to go to hell. And, hell's going to suck because I'm not going to go up to do this. Yeah. So I do remember from 6 years old, at about 11 years old, I was, making my plans to get away. Still no real contact. We were very much, we'd go out into society to sort of sing on the streets and raise money or talk to people about Jesus, but we didn't, let outside influences into our world. So, for example, one of the first times I ever saw live TV on was on 9/11. No. And then, wow. So if you can imagine, 14 years old, you're seeing the burning buildings, and then now the leaders are telling you, this is God's punishment on America, which is sinners and evil, and, so again, kind of going back to this culture that is so extreme and so much indoctrination that you can justify terrorism.
Oh, that is crazy. So this is fascinating. I don't want to live on this too long, but I think it's so important for people to understand what you went through and how it prepared you for who you are today. But when we talk about doing it for Jesus, has that changed your perspective on religion? I mean, that's not even in my questions. I'm just gonna so you can say that wasn't in the questions. You don't have to answer it, but it's. Today, I mean, do you view religion, God, Jesus? How do you view that based on your experience?
Yeah, I don't want to get into it too much. Yeah. I'm not personally a very religious person, but I think that my view about religion is pretty balanced, and I do understand that what I grew up with was not true Christianity.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's healthy. No, and that's fair. That's fair. I kind of put you on the spot on that. But you went from cult to joining the Army. You became a captain in the Army, for that matter. So some would say, geez, you went from one indoctrination to another form of indoctrination. But I would argue certainly a much better mission and purpose. How was that transition from going from cult, or what was the deciding factor to join the military?
It's funny because I've actually been asked that question a lot, both by cult survivors and by military people. They say, wait, so you escaped a cult and then you joined another one?
Right.
Everybody laughs, but, certainly there are a lot of similarities. And by that, what I mean is just with any strong organization that is built around values and a distinct membership and has, a strong sense of community, strong sense of belonging, a specific ideology, like you have similarities. So I think that, how many years ago, 10 years ago, when I went into the military, I thought I was doing it because I wanted to pay something back to the American dream, right, which gave me the opportunity to come to this country on my own at 15 and build my life. But now, looking back with everything I know about sort of culture and how humans work, I think that I was searching for structure. And, for example, in basic training, I remember everybody was, because I did a direct commission straight to officer, so I went to regular basic training, and I remember people just being like, I going crazy because they didn't have any alone time. And I was just like, I was never alone ever till I was 15. Yeah. Or people who hated the drill sergeants with a raging passion. And I would just sit there and watch them because I could tell. I was like, oh, they were trained to do this. They were trained to sort of manipulate human beings because what they're trying to do, which again, if you think about it in the cult perspective, I spent 23 years of my life in organizations that take normal human beings, kind of change their perspective of reality, and then get them to commit so strongly to this organization that they're willing to sacrifice their life for an idea. And that is sort of the same process.
Yep.
And like you mentioned, it's a different, in many ways, it's a different, better mission. But at the same time, I think, the military, if you boil it down, is about taking lives.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that comes into, is it about our mission, or is it like we put in as leaders, and you and I have both experienced this as military leaders, like it's the values that we emphasize and it's the safeties that we put in place, because our military has done wonderful things and also done terrible things.
Yeah, no question. I think, and I'm Navy, you're Army, and I think one of my favorite commercials that the Navy ever produced was that Global Force for Good. We came out with that whole series on where we were doing essentially peacekeeping missions. And that was the advertisement that was going out to the media. And I loved it because I was like, gosh, that is so powerful, right? You can be a global force for good. And to your point, anything that starts good can certainly turn bad based on leadership. And I think that's a powerful point too. So I think you and I have probably experienced some great leaders in the military and some ones that are still learning. So
yes to both. Yes to both. And I think one of the dangers for leaders, really of any companies, these days, it's all about have a purpose, right? Whether you're a for-profit or a non-profit, you're a for-purpose company and you're inspiring your people, and that's great. But the danger of that is the more you pump up the passion and the inspiration, the easier it is to sort of never question what's behind that.
That's powerful. It's good.
And again, we've seen that I've certainly seen that for good and for bad in my life.
Yeah, it's so good. This conversation just is so fascinating for me. We sometimes hear, veterans struggle with the transition, right? They leave this structured environment that has a clear mission, clear purpose in many ways, probably does take our youth and gives them a sense of mission and purpose. And then they get into the corporate structure and it's like there's no common mission or purpose anywhere, really, right? I mean, there's a struggle to find that thread of mission and purpose. Let's put it that way. How was your transition from going from structure to structure to suddenly civilian sector? Did you struggle with that, or was it an easy transition for you?
So, give you a line from my TED Talk. Transition is hard, always.
Yeah.
I think if anyone says their transition is easy, they're just not paying attention. For me, sort of multiple things that you mentioned there. So I was when I was first women, serving on a combat team. I mean, I was very close to bad stuff. I lost good friends. And then transitioning out as a veteran, I mean, honestly, people don't really take you seriously as a young woman because nobody thinks you saw combat, or even though that's all changing now, right? It's not really the same as the men that can say, oh, I was a SF or oh, I was a Ranger. And so that part of the culture is still changing. I think there's less support in many ways for some of the women. At the same time, I became a military spouse. So I went through, I was a captain, I was an intelligence officer, I was at a senior level for that, and I was, very much respected by generals, colonels, and then all of a sudden now I'm the pregnant wife of a helicopter pilot, and I'm just being asked, if I enjoy leaving the army to become mom, which I loved being a mom, but it was a very shocking transition to, whoa, it was this whole other world of being a military spouse that's sort of all about supporting the active duty member. And I, as you mentioned, I need a mission, I need a purpose, I need to carve out my own space. Yeah. And then the third, going into the corporate world, I did what I think most people did. I just looked at my resume and said, what do I do? And I said, okay, I do security. Let me go get a job in security. And there's a lot of great things from the military that helped me in the corporate world, but literally 2 years in, it was, what am I doing here?
Is that right?
I get up and go to work every day just for money, and I felt no sense of purpose. And 3 different people asked me, like, wait, you have this background, and why do you work here? And it took 3 people asking me that for me to realize, I can choose my own purpose. I can do something that has meaning to me, not just basically what my resume says that I do.
Yeah, I want to unpack that for sure, because that is not uncommon. I remember when I transitioned out, I think I went through 14 different jobs. And my mother was really concerned. She thought there was something seriously wrong with me. And I was like, no, I'm figuring out really quick what I don't want to do. In that exposure of having a sense of mission, purpose, like, the purpose of the military, to your point, is to keep the country safe, to keep the world safe for that matter, right? Kill the bad guys.
Right.
That's your purpose. Your mission can change. But as long as you have purpose, missions can change. They come and go, and you're good with it because purpose is clear. You get into corporate, and suddenly you're like, what's the purpose? We're just making money, selling widgets? What are we doing? I mean, right? And that's, I think, where the struggle happens for so many transitioning service members, and even those that have been out for a number of years, where they struggle with that. And you landed on it, is you understood that you could really take this next chapter in your life and define your future, determine your purpose. But that wasn't an easy decision, was it? I mean, you said it took 3 people, but so the 3 people approached you, but then you had to still execute on that. So tell us, how was the execution part? Was it really a struggle? Was your husband supportive? I mean, unpack that conversation.
Yeah, so definitely not an easy decision. And also, before I even get into that, one thing that you mentioned that was sort of, people when they're struggling to transition and they're looking for this purpose. And one thing is you don't realize when you're transitioning, you don't realize that you don't know what you don't know. So when I was leaving the cult, I didn't realize how to speak normal language. When you're leaving the military, you don't realize how to speak corporate language. And then when I was leaving corporate, I didn't realize how to speak this sort of entrepreneur language. And so it's always so much more of a process than you think it is. I was like, to my husband, I'm going to take 3 months and explore the idea of starting a business, which now, almost 2 years later, I just laugh at my naivete.
Yeah.
Because certainly it was more than that, And then one of the other things that, explains my transition, but it's also, I think, great advice for all listeners is everyone tells you when you get out of the military you'll miss the camaraderie. And yes, that's true. And when I was leaving the cult, they told me no one was going to love me in the outside world, right? And so it's very similar. It's like you're going to miss this community. But the thing is, 13% of Americans are veterans. So you're an alumni of the largest organization ever. So you can find that same camaraderie on the outside. And you can find a sense of purpose. And so for me, I found an organization called Bunker Labs that was about veterans in entrepreneurship. And the second I walked in that room and connected with people, I felt it. It was like that feeling we all have when we're in a great unit and we're on a great mission. And even though my mission has changed probably 14 times, as I've been developing ideas and building my company and figuring out what works, I probably talked to 2,000 people, you included, as one of my mentors, who, helping me to develop my ideas and figure out the right path. But as soon as you find that tribe, connecting with the right people, that's where you start. And I think when people can't make that connection, and then they feel like they made a mistake for leaving the military or that they're never going to find it again. And when you're transitioning, that's the focus. Who's your tribe? Who's your people?
It's so important, right? I think and I love that too, because as parents, and I know you and your husband are parents as well, that, I pay attention to who my daughters hang out with, right? To who their tribe is. And I think when we transition, we're seeking tribe, and sometimes we get mixed up with the wrong tribe, but we're like, well, maybe this is my fate in life. Maybe I'll do this. It takes us down wrong pathways. Finding that tribe is so important. And I think that's such an important part of your message too, is, and Bunker Labs, oh my gosh, anybody that ever wants to start a business or be around people that are innovative, fast thinkers, want to change the world, you want to continue to be on purpose and mission, Bunker Labs is a great place to go, right? I'm giving them free advertisement right now, but I'm glad you found them, because it's such a great organization, such a great organization. You've got an upcoming TEDx talk, and you kind of mentioned it briefly. But what are people going to learn from your talks? You go in and talk to CEOs, now CEO forums, and now you got a TEDx talk coming up where people will be able to find you. What do you share, and what can people learn from that?
Yeah, so, when I consult with companies and CEOs we do everything culture, but from the talk perspective, I'm sharing obviously personal stories, but really sort of the concept of here's how you build culture and community, and then here are the dangers. So very much exactly what I talked about. You need to build a strong culture because study shows it increases your profit 756%, but you also need to avoid the cult when you're building the culture, and here's how you do that. On my TEDx talk, it is the TEDx conference is on transition. The topic is, again, a lot of what we talked about today, so transition, just bridging the gap. And I'm sharing a more personal story, so my childhood background, my journey through the military. And the idea is that when you are lost in transition, which everyone is at some point when you're transitioning, you need a compass. And I'm going to share, the three important points that I've found on my journey that, again, the first is connecting with people. I'll just give you that.
Yeah.
But there's a 3-part compass that you can literally sit down and use to map out your journey. And it's for real. My family and I are relocating to Texas in about 2 years, and I am going to make a transition map with these columns and these, so I can actually visually see, where am I lacking? What areas do I need to fill out or flush out? And so that's what I will be sharing in my 12 minutes of TEDx.
I'm going to love that. I mean, if people want to see you compress your life story in 12 minutes, they've got to check out your TEDx talk. It's going to be amazing. So how do people find you? If they want to roll with you, learn from you, understand who you are, how do they find you? Where do they find you? You got a website, you got a LinkedIn profile. Where do you want people to connect with you?
Yeah, so I have a website that's www.culturalforte.com, and I also have a LinkedIn profile, so Daniella Young. I have wild, crazy red hair. I'm on Twitter, Daniella M. Young, and I'm on Instagram with the same handle, so I'm a little bit of everywhere, and I'm also on Facebook at Daniella Young. And it's, I'll just say for the listeners, it's Daniella, like Danielle, but with an A.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, thank you for doing that. That's,
I love to connect with people. So if anyone listens to this, heard something they like, please reach out. I'm all about, what you mentioned, like innovative thinking. So, because you have to be entrepreneurship or culture, but if you just like to think about things differently, I'm one of your people.
I love that. Well, and you're making a difference too, and I love that you're getting your story out there. I'm glad that we can be a part of it. I'm really excited that our listeners will be able to learn from you on a number of fronts, like the importance of mission and purpose and having that compass and being disciplined with the next step or the next chapter in your life, like you are being. So important. And I just want to say that, thank you for serving, in combat. I didn't ever have to. Us Navy guys had it somewhat easy. I had it somewhat easy. Let me put it that way. So for, being a frontliner, and that is so important. And I think you set the right example and the right tone for other, not only women that want to follow in your footsteps, but for men as well, to say, you know what? It's all about one team, one fight, and making sure that we're being, mission and purpose driven. So, Daniella, thank you for being a guest on this show, and thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Mike.